You're listening to 710 KURV, your 956 drive home. I'm Zach Cantu on your home for Houston Astros baseball weeknights, weekends, all season long. Your home for the Astros is 710 KURV. Let's talk about AI data centers and the upcoming dispute over energy. I know people are like, well, what about the water? We'll talk about the water later, but this energy situation I think is fascinating. Joining us on 710 KURV to figure out where the energy goes, what it does, how are they going to figure out how to put energy into all of these AI data centers is Mitch Rolling, co-founder and director of research at Always On Energy Research, where he models energy proposals and analyzes electricity policy. So let's start at the beginning. I apologize that this is kind of rudimentary, but an AI data center, I'm sure everybody has their own idea of what that looks like and what that does. But let's what actually happens at an AI data center, what's in it, and what warrants this massive draw for power.
Yeah, so while I'm not a data center expert here, I'm more on the energy side. The simple thing is that they process a lot of data and for AI and other things, and this takes a tremendous amount of energy. And it's 24/7 energy too. So they need this all the time. And so it's a big base load power load that we need to supply. And we need to build a lot of power capacity in order to do that. And this has led, we're underprepared for it. We can get into that. But that's kind of where my analysis comes in, is how we're doing to meet that load expectation and what we can do to do that.
Are you able to illustrate how much power draw an AI data center on average compared to maybe a subdivision, a certain series of homes?
Well, I've never done that before, but I do know I've modeled where utilities have their load growth projections, and while it's not all coming from AI and data centers, a lot of it is. And so we're doing one in North Carolina where, I mean, you're seeing by 2040, like almost a doubling of their power expectations and needs. And then peak demand is growing by, a lot as well. And that's really where a lot of these reliability issues stem from, is meeting that growth and peak demand. Why this is so different now is because we have basically had flat demand in the United States for 20 years. And so AI and data centers are upticking that for the first time in decades. And that's why this is such a huge discussion right now.
Joining us on 710 KURV, Mitch Rolling, who is the co-founder and director of research at Always On Energy Research. And that is a very interesting point that you brought up, that we were just flat for the longest time. We were just accommodating for people that were moving from one state to another, what have you. There was a big, for example, flocking from California to Texas, where we were trying to accommodate that. And now in Texas, we're trying to accommodate this AI data center boom. And the numbers from that, I think, were by 2030, 2035, we need to produce 4 times as much energy as the peak that we've ever had, the peak demand we've ever had in 2021, I think it was, something like that, which is a crazy amount of energy. First off, just for average regular people in homes to be drawing that much, first off, but then to multiply that by 4, I don't know where it all comes from.
Right. Well, and Texas, ERCOT is a unique situation where they've actually have been growing. They're like one of the only areas in the country where load growth has been pretty steady, for as long as we can remember. And there's already been problems in Texas. I lived in Texas during the 2021 power blackouts, so we're already seeing in Texas what could be happening to the rest of the country if we're not careful.
So let's talk about, how do we get there? What do we need? How long does it take? How much does it cost to get to that point that we need to get to?
Right. Well, that's kind of the unfortunate thing about this, is that we have been kind of careless on how we've been going about energy policy for the last few decades here. President Trump has come out with his ratepayer protection pledge, trying to save ratepayers the cost of building the resources needed for AIs and data centers. But to a certain extent, the damage has already really been done here. We have been building unreliable, inefficient, inadequate resources to power the growth of electricity demand for the last 2 decades. We just touched on it. Load growth has been steady, yet we have been building capacity. Over the last decade, we've built probably over 200 gigawatts of wind and solar resources, right? So load growth has been steady. We've been building capacity for no load growth. And now we have more capacity than ever, yet we can't power the load growth of the future. And why that is because the resources we've been building, wind and solar, are weather dependent. Data centers, you need to power those 24/7. That means when the wind doesn't blow and when the sun doesn't shine, right? You need that power all the time. And so where we go from here, right, there's been tremendous damage by going for those resources, net zero policies, we can call them. And where we are right now is utilities and market participants who realize that wind and solar can't power these data centers. They are all scrambling to build new natural gas facilities. Some are contemplating nuclear, but if you start right now, nuclear is probably 8 to 12 years away, a nuclear plant. And so they're all scrambling to build natural gas because that is dispatchable, it's reliable. You can increase the production when demand goes up on the grid. You can't do that with wind and solar. So they're all scrambling to build these natural gas plants, and that has increased the demand for it, which increases the price for these units. And that has put a strain on the grid because now everyone's scrambling, costs go up. They charge those to ratepayers on top of what ratepayers have already been charged to build these new wind and solar plants. And so you're just getting this escalation of costs for everyone. And so there's no real good news about this. Costs are high. They're probably going to stay high, if not get higher. The ratepayer protection pledge is a good effort, but in so many ways the damage has been done. I like the turn back towards reliability and affordability, but we should have been talking about this 10, 20 years ago. We should have never stopped building baseload, reliable, fuel-based generators.
From Always On Energy Research is Mitch Rolling joining us on 710 KURV. So I have a couple of things I want to ask before we run out of time here today. And one of those things is I believe in the state of Texas, the governor wants any of the new AI data centers to produce their own power. The ERCOT guys, they want all the new data centers to be able to produce their own power. Are they going to be able to do that? And is there some way they're going to offload that cost onto us?
Yeah, that is a good question, right? I think they should be allowed to do that. I think that is a good way to kind of protect, right? They have the money for it. I think ERCOT, especially, you could get somewhere right there because it's deregulated, and the biggest hoop to go over is all the regulations in the rest of the country. But ERCOT's in a unique situation where I think it's most possible and probable that it can happen in Texas. And I think it should. We're in a situation, we shouldn't be in this situation. The grid is designed to take on high load industries like data centers. This is usually a net benefit for everyone because you're spreading more megawatt hours over or more costs over more megawatt hours. And so that usually decreases the price. But we're in a situation right now where we're scrambling to build new. And so I think in Texas, it's most possible in Texas.
You had mentioned about nuclear and that taking a good chunk of time to develop and go into. And we've been hearing a lot about it as kind of it's being sold as a silver bullet. I don't know any better one way or the other if it is a silver bullet. And that would be my question for that. Would that be the answer for our issues here in Texas? And this was happening before even the AI data centers were becoming an issue.
Yeah. I mean, if your goal at Always On, we prioritize affordable and reliable electricity. That's our goal. We want to spread those priorities across the country. But if your goal is also decarbonization, then nuclear is the best case, especially if you want to get towards 90, 100% decarbonization. I mean, to do that with wind and solar requires an immense amount of spending. You need to overbuild the system. No matter how you do it, you need to overbuild the system to accommodate wind and solar. You need to build more transmission because they're usually far away resources from population centers. And so nuclear, while it is still expensive, it's more expensive than if you were to rely on natural gas and coal. But if your goal is to decarbonize, nuclear is the best way. You just need to push back your expectations. This is going to be a 20, 30, 40-year goal. I think that we were a little too ambitious in the States to say, oh, we're going net zero by 2030. Well, no, that's only 4 years away. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen by 2040 either. Nuclear is the best case. It's still expensive. But if that's your goal, then I would say nuclear is your best hope.
And last question before we go, I gotta ask. So, are the AI data centers really to blame for the reason that the energy costs are going up?
Absolutely not. Electricity prices are lagging behind the energy policies that have led us to this point. Like I said, we shouldn't be in this position where we're trying to protect ratepayers from rising or from these data centers. This used to be a net benefit for everyone. The grid was designed to take on these high loads, and it usually was good for residential ratepayers. The costs have been lagging behind net zero policies like mandates for wind and solar, subsidies for wind and solar, because none of those account for the hidden costs that come with trying to rely on wind and solar to power a grid. And those hidden costs include overbuilding wind and solar themselves, needing storage as backup, needing natural gas as backup, spending more in transmission and distribution. These are all hidden costs that the ratepayers have to pay for. Yet when the people building them say, hey, these are the lowest cost energy sources around, the metrics they're using to justify those claims do not take into account the full system costs of relying on wind and solar. And that's a big mission at Always On that we are trying to combat. We have come up with an always on cost of energy metric to kind of combat those claims. But no, these have been directly the result of net zero policies.
That is incredible. I would love to talk about this in great depth at another time. But in the meantime, for people that are listening and they want to learn more and follow you all at Always On Energy Research, Mitch, how can we find you?
Yeah, you can go to our website, aoenergy.org. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, Mitch Rolling. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm active there. I'm not so active on Twitter, but I'm active on LinkedIn. And yeah, those are the best ways to find us.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Mitch Rolling, co-founder and director of research at Always On Energy Research, joining us on 710 KURV.
Thank you.